All right, welcome to the Two Sons Podcast. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. We got a jam-packed show for you today.
Yeah.
Luke is reporting back from F1 Austin from the United States Grand Prix. That's really all we're going to talk about today.
It's all about Max Verstappen. If you don't know who Max is, read a book.
We are going to be covering the second book in the Darth Bane trilogy today.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
Dude,
Rule of Two?
Rule of Two.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to be covering that book. I'm excited about this Arizona Diamondbacks World Series run.
It's unreal.
Yeah, today is literally the start of the NBA season. I have to do two shows tonight, starting with Lakers Nuggets at 4:30. I have to do a show immediately after the game, then turn around and run into the living room to watch Warriors Suns, and then run back and record. So I'm not going to get to watch, and it's been devastating for me because I have really enjoyed watching the D-backs in this playoff run.
Well, dude, want to know what you've enjoyed, though, is being able to access Diamondback games.
Yeah, because they're on national television.
Exactly. It's such a pain in the ass that so many of these games aren't televised for the average baseball fan like you and I, or even a below average, I'd say. And it's nice to just be able to turn on the TV and be like, yeah, let's watch the Diamondbacks. Let's support our local team. It's so ridiculous that we don't have access to that.
Yeah, so the backstory here is Luke and I are from different parts of Arizona. He's from Prescott, Arizona, which is a little bit north of Phoenix. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, which is a little bit south of Phoenix. Glad you moved here, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
But it was like a tradition in my family. We'd come home from school. I played Little League Baseball growing up, and I was obsessed with it. And we would come home and turn on the D-backs game every single night, and you became deeply familiar with each player,
dude. And you're
like, oh, Mark Reynolds, he's always hitting home runs or striking out, or
Randy Johnson, Gonzalez, all these huge names that you got to grow up with. I feel like they're just not around anymore, just because you just don't see the games anymore.
Yeah, which is crazy. Ketel Marte is this lefty who's been the best hitter for the D-backs in the postseason, and it's he's been with the team since 2017, and I've been barely aware of his existence.
Right.
Because I have YouTube TV and I don't get Fox Sports Arizona. And so I didn't get to watch any D-backs games.
Right.
It's really, really obnoxious, honestly. Especially
it's a bummer.
Now, one of the nice things is the in general sports media is kind of shifting, and I don't know if you've seen this, but the Utah Jazz are launching a new their own little streaming platform this year. So these regional sports networks are actually starting to disappear, and they're bringing in essentially these streaming platforms. So you and I would be able to, and I would do this in a heartbeat because I think this would be fun. But if the D-backs did something like that, and they were you get to pay $10 a month during the season or $150 for the season, you get every D-backs game.
I would totally buy
hell
in
yeah,
that.
let's go.
If it was reasonable, and that's kind of the problem is a lot of these services are there, but they're just not reasonably priced. So it's just when I'm a below average Diamondbacks fan, I'm not going to pay a bunch of money to watch Diamondbacks games. I'm just not. The same issue happened with even the Pac-12 network. Literally, the Pac-12 dissolved because of poor management and inaccessible games for people. They were only contracted with a few of the big companies. They weren't with YouTube TV, which a lot of people have moved to. So they just a lot of these games were inaccessible. And again, they're local teams where you could drive 15-20 minutes and go watch the game, yet you can't get it on TV.
You can't get it on TV.
It's crazy. So now the Pac-12 dissolved because of it.
I know.
Which is crazy that even
because
happened.
USC games and Oregon games will be on ESPN, but then nothing else will be.
Dude, I saw so many Gonzaga games last basketball season, more than U of A basketball games.
I know.
It's crazy.
It legitimately is crazy. And by the way, them moving to the Big 12 will help with that.
I think so too.
For sure.
I think so too.
But I've enjoyed I grew up playing Little League Baseball. I was actually talking about this with Carly the other day. I was like, can our kid play Little League Baseball? And she was like, that's going to be so boring, all this stuff. And
Jason and Carly are not pregnant yet. just to put that rumor
We're
down.
We're talking about the hypothetical child. Yeah. Hypothetical child.
Do you have something to tell me, Jay?
No, I do not. Okay. Hypothetical child, hypothetically asking to play baseball.
Uh-huh.
So I remember Little League Baseball being something that I loved growing up.
Right.
Now it'll be conflicting with my desire for my child to eventually play basketball.
Of course they're going to play basketball.
But
your job is basketball, yeah.
But hey, Little League Baseball, inexpensive. The whole season's $200 or something like that, and like they get their jersey and all that included, right? And you just have
and
to buy
just
them
playing
a glove.
catch with your kid in the backyard, like that's absolutely
that's the stereotypical dad thing that you have to do.
If you live in
right?
the United States and if you're dad, you gotta play catch with your son.
Exactly, or if you don't, you're a bad dad. That's just the rules. Have you played catch with your son yet?
Not yet.
What's the deal?
Yeah, he doesn't. His glove hand isn't all that great yet. He's just figuring out how to like pick up small objects that he can put in his mouth.
Dude, it was freaking wild last night. Like, cause Luke was driving back from F1, and his wife is very good friends with my wife, and so she came over and had a couple glasses of wine, and literally I'm like watching the football game and I'm looking down and G-Man's just like crawling around on the blanket on the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just freaking wild that there's this other human that we're like
and then he's about to be like running around our house, just like opening up cabinets with chemicals in them. I'm just like, we've started baby proofing. It's time, dude.
It's time to start baby proofing.
I know. I need to build a fence around our pool, like stat. It sounds like our house is like super dangerous, like for kids, but
I feel like every house is super dangerous.
I know. Like we'll get the pool fence up. It'll be okay.
But like, I will say like I got disconnected from baseball as I grew up and got older, and like honestly, it's been super like sentimental.
It's been cool to get back into it.
Like when Alec Thomas hit the 2-run homer that tied Game 4 in the top of the 8th inning or in the bottom of the 8th inning, I literally ran around my house screaming like a child.
Dude, it's fun.
Baseball. I was like, let's go.
What's cool about baseball too? It's like, you could be down 5 runs and still come back in the ninth. Like that's what's so dope about it. Like there's always a chance in baseball. It's really small if you're like getting your butt kicked, but there's always still a chance. It's like, it's such a cool sport.
Oh, it really is. And like, that's the thing that's crazy is like anything can happen too. Cause like this Phillies team the top of their order is terrifying. Like the only reason they were able to win yesterday is they basically straight up pitched around Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. And like every single time they've thrown over the plate to those guys, they're hitting 400-foot bombs. Like it's crazy. A problem. Like so like it was crazy in the first inning. Like they deliberately walked Schwarber on 4 pitches, and then because Schwarber's the lefty that's got that like golf swing that hits everything out of the park, and then they got the second guy out, and then deliberately walked Bryce Harper, and then struck the next 2 guys out. And I'm like, this is the strategy. Like you just got to pitch around these guys. So it's been fun. I'm super invested. I'm super bummed out that tonight I don't get to watch.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like it's hard not to be excited for this NBA season. I don't know. Did you see the Suns are already dealing with injuries?
No.
So Devin Booker is questionable for tonight, a game time decision because of a sore toe, and Bradley Beal is not playing because of a back injury.
Sore toe, that's like an odd injury.
Yeah.
It's like the equivalent of like turf toe, but for basketball players probably. Like you can hyperextend your big toe and then it sucks to walk around on it and it takes forever to heal because when you walk, it flexes your toe.
Pretty much.
It's such a pain in the ass.
No, exactly. And like have you ever had that turf toe? Like it's not fun.
It hurts.
It almost feels like there's like acid in the joint of your toe. It like just aches and burns.
It aches. Yeah.
But Devin Booker's debuting his new basketball shoe this training camp.
Oh, sick.
And so I'm like, not good for the new basketball shoe that it's
I'm like, sick.
Wheel.
Yeah, I was like, no, it's not a good thing.
Dude, did you see? So Julius Randle and some other guy, I can't remember who, are signed new deals with Skechers for basketball shoes. Skechers is launching a basketball division.
Dude, make Skechers cool again. They've got Tony Romo. Who else did they have? Like whoever.
Wait, hold on. Tony Romo was with Skechers?
Dude, you haven't not for like an athletic shoe. It's like a wear around.
Their
shoe.
wear around.
He's like I'm a retired shoe.
Oh, okay. Well, that's literally what Skechers are. Is they're I'm retired shoes.
Yes,
dude. I remember.
No offense, but I don't know if I'll like. I'm not like when I look. All right, I'm not. Skechers aren't my jam. I'm just pulling punches. Just pull up on the reins on that one. I don't think I've ever seen Skechers and I've been like, those are sick,
dude. I vividly
and I'm not
remember.
like a name brand guy. Like I'm really not. Like I'm wearing a Nike shirt, but I've literally had this shirt for like probably 10 years almost. Like this. But anyways, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can make a cool shoe.
I vividly remember when I was a kid, my mom like wanting to buy me Skechers one day and me being like, no, like Skechers aren't cool.
Yeah.
Like I remember like it was trouble. And like, so it's a double whammy on two levels. Cause the other guy they signed was Joel Embiid. I just remembered. And Joel Embiid is like injury prone as can be at the NBA level. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, so you're trying to infringe on the basketball game where like literally you have some of the coolest brands in the history of apparel, like Nike, like literally rules the business. Adidas. Is like culturally resonant in a real way now. You're even seeing New Balance kind of on the rise through
Dude,
Kawhi
New Balance
Leonard.
that was sick.
I kind of like the New Balance vibe, and it's like Skechers trying to get in on that is like
Otani's
super...
on the New Balance train as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. And like so it's and there's these other like smaller brands that are getting involved, like Anta, I think a Japanese company that's with Klay Thompson, and Austin Reeves signed this with this other shoe company. But like I also want to be like Joel Embiid. Are you really going to trust your body to a company that's never made basketball shoes? Like, dude, like this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, he was like, it's either that or Crocs. Crocs seemed like they sucked, so Skechers was that.
And it's just like a retrofitted Croc with like little like wires strapped over the top. Trying to hold his foot down.
We filled in the holes, so you're good.
He's like, there's an Air Max pad. There's literally just like a layer of marshmallows in the heel or something like that. I am excited for tonight though. The Suns. It's going to be interesting because the start of the season, their schedule is pretty tough. Mm-hmm. Like they play the Warriors on the road tonight. That's going to be a tough game. Then they have to go play the Lakers. I think that game is in Phoenix, but like without Devin Booker potentially and without Bradley Beal, that could be a tough one. So they could start like kind of against the 8 ball a little bit.
Yeah, that might be
to start
good,
the
though.
season.
I mean, there's like you and I have talked about this. There's so many games in the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like sure, it's okay if you start off a little bit bad, but they're changing the. I swear to you, this is a podcast about Star Wars. But they're changing.
I hate to break it to you, buddy. This is probably gonna be a separate episode. We're not gonna market this as Bane and then make people wait 20 minutes.
That sounds good.
This is the Diamondbacks and Skechers episode.
Yeah, and a little bit of F1. No, what I don't even know what I was going. Oh yeah, they're changing the season up a little bit, right? There's like a mid-season playoff thing.
Yeah, so you know what's funny? I've had so many people, even in my mailbag questions, be like, "Hey, can you explain the mid-season tournament to me?" I'm like, "No, I can't. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they're doing it. I don't understand the purpose because it's like the games count towards the regular season except for the semifinals and the championship. If you win the championship, you don't get anything except for the players get like some cash apparently." Like they're just going to be kind of like random. The tournament games are just going to be like randomly placed during the regular season. Like I'm kind of confused about it. Now the idea is like it could lead to prestige. So essentially, like think of it like this: have you ever heard of like the FA Cup?
No.
So I think it's in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, like they have this tournament in the middle of their season, and like if you win it, you win the FA Cup. But like it's been around for like 100-something years,
so it's like a big deal.
So it has like some prestige to it.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
So like this thing's called the NBA Cup, and like essentially it has
the Tri-Wizard Cup. No,
the Tri-Wizard Cup, the Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Yeah.
They literally have to like really invest in the prestige behind that award, and like
for sure
what it will require is like a real NBA superstar winning it this year. It would be like super legitimate is if like the Nuggets won it, because then it'd be like, yeah, we're the best team, we just got the title and we got the NBA Cup now.
I feel you.
And if like players started flexing the NBA Cup and it kind of became something that was like a little bit more of a bragging rights thing, I do like the idea potentially of it being like a single elimination version, because like there's we've heard of March Madness. Have you heard of March Madness?
I think I've heard of March Madness.
Yes. So,
I think I've heard of him.
So like March Madness captures
March Madness?
this like it has this unbelievable intensity of the single elimination basketball game, and like even extending to the women's national tournament, which I had so much fun watching last year with like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and all those people. So like I think there's potential. But like it's hard for me to wrap my brain around the way they put it together, and like I'm not 100% sold on it, but we'll see in the big picture. Well, tell me about F1. What was it like?
Dude, well, it's kind of funny that you bring up like mid-season competition. So like F1 actually has changed some of their racing too. Mm-hmm. So this last race in Austin was actually like they also had something called the sprint in it. Mm-hmm. And essentially, so like you have the Grand Prix, which is just the race itself, and then any given race weekend, you have like a few times where the drivers get out there and like the days leading up to everything, and they like get the cars tuned up and they make modifications to the car. The race, they
run practice laps and stuff.
Yeah, the drivers like relearn the track a little bit. And then they do something called a qualifying, where, like, long story short, it's essentially how they end up deciding who gets
Where they
like
start.
which starting positions on the grid.
And they run time lapse for that.
They
right?
run time lapse, yeah. So they also do something called a sprint on some of the weekends, where they literally have like a race within a race. So the day before Sunday, so like Saturday, they actually did what's called like a sprint shootout, which is the qualifying for the sprint race. And then the sprint race is like a shorter, like typically like 18 lap tiny race that's within like the larger race weekend. And it's actually really cool. It's like it's worth way less points,
but it's still worth points.
Exactly. And what's neat about it is the teams get like X amount of tires that they can use in any given weekend, so they can't just like blow through tires. And the strategy behind that is
so you don't want to waste tires in practice rounds.
Exactly.
That's super interesting.
And what's really cool about it too is like the harder you drive on these tires, the more wear they get, and when they don't last as long. So like you'll have strategies, like for example, like Mercedes tried to have a strategy where they're going to try and only have 2 pit stops in the entire Grand Prix for the actual race itself.
So they push their tires further.
That way they don't have to take a lot of time in the pits. And they actually had a bail on that and go for a third time.
Was there a blowout, or is it?
There's no blowout. It's like pretty much if you get a blowout, in most cases, like your race is over.
Yeah, because like your front end is just
it destroys the car, right? So, there's actually a lot of drama that happened this weekend. It was like super cool. So I'll break it down really quick. So in the actual race itself, like Max Verstappen has already won the title, and there's still like five races left, and
but he just has such a big
knows.
lead.
Yeah, he like literally cannot lose. He's already won it
statistically.
So but what's cool is like then there's all these other big names that show up that people like love. Like so a guy named Danny Ricciardo is a like massive like beloved like race car driver in F1, and he actually had a broken hand recently, and his first race back was this race, which was really cool. So like I got to see Danny Ricciardo drive. Lewis Hamilton is like literally like tied for like all-time wins for like the actual like title itself, which is 7. And so like just he's like an absolute
tied with
legend.
Max or with someone else?
No, someone else.
How many titles does Max Verstappen have?
3 now,
including this one.
This one, yeah.
So he's like a young up and coming star.
Yeah, and like Red Bull's just always winning. So like there was like a great race where Lewis Hamilton actually brought it in within like 2 seconds left of Max Verstappen. So it was actually like really good racing, whereas oftentimes like Max is like 30 seconds ahead of everybody, and it's just boring. But there's some drama. So Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc actually got disqualified like in the hours after the race. So they're like
why did they like do like a post race inspection and they discover something?
So like Hamilton was like up on the podium, like he was like shaking the champagne with everybody, and then like that evening they're like, oh, by the way, like his car failed inspections. Essentially, long story short, they had dropped their car too low to the ground, which gave them an advantage. And then there's like certain wear plates that were worn too much.
Okay, gotcha.
So then they had gotten pulled out. But dude, F1 is an insane sport. It like being there for a weekend was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had in my life. There's 440,000 people there.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And yes,
that's crazy.
It was insane. So and what it is, they have all these grandstands that are around. So people just
how long is the actual track?
Dude, I forget.
Is it like 2 miles, 3 miles?
It's like 2 to 3 miles. I honestly should know that, but I forget. So 440,000 people. So you have the actual bleacher seats that you can buy, and then we actually had lawn seats. So we were just like walking around the track.
The pictures you showed me were pretty cool.
Yeah, and like we were like right up against. Yeah, we were like right up against.
Yeah, like
the
a home
fence.
base, and you just walk around a little bit.
Yeah, and there was it was essentially like a pretty quiet weekend. Like usually the Austin Grand Prix results in some crashes, especially in turn 1. So you have 20 cars like trying to be first around the first corner. Like typically there's a crash, but there's actually no major crashes. In one of the qualifyings, Max Verstappen actually spun out like right in front of us. So like we like saw him come over this corner, and he's like his car is like literally spinning like this, and he's so freaking good that he pulled it out of his spin and just kept driving like nothing had happened.
That's insane,
dude. Whereas most drivers would have literally put it in the wall and like destroyed their car. And these cars are millions of dollars, right? It's like literally the front wing on one of these cars is like $50,000 if they have to change it. It's so crazy. And then so like
it kind of makes you wonder with the super meticulous engineering how they would do something like mess up and put it too low. You know what I mean? But
so
it has to have been a
intentional.
mistake.
No,
You
it
think
wasn't.
so?
Oh yeah.
But why would they intentionally cheat?
Because they're cheeky little bastards. Dude, like this is like so known. Like if there is like a slight rule that can be broken in F1,
They'll
like
do
it is agreed upon, like all the teams. They're like, hey, like go for it. We're doing it. But if you get caught, like we're gonna like scold you. And that's kind of like what it is. Like all these teams are reading the rule book and they're like technically not breaking the rules. And then the FIA, who's like the governing board of F1, they'll literally have to change the wording of their rules. So then these teams can no longer be like breaking the spirit of the rule.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but it was cool. Like the Killers were there. So they had like all, like anybody who had seats for like the actual F1 race.
So you got to hear a live Mr. Brightside?
Dude, it was incredible.
Were you inebriated enough to enjoy it? That's the real question.
I was actually, dude, this weekend, I'm so surprised. I did not get drunk. Like I was chugging waters because it was so freaking hot.
Dude.
So hot. And beers are like $20 a pop.
Oh, I can only imagine.
So, but we did bring a keg, and so we camped.
You brought
on
a
site.
keg?
Yeah.
Power move.
Yeah, we camped on site. So it was cool. We would walk to the trailer, have a couple beers and walk back and watch like a race. And then we'd go back and then we'd go back and forth. And it was like 15-minute walk.
Was it Riley's trailer that you guys stayed in?
It was my dad's.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah. So it was cool. So we got to see the Killers live, which I was not going to lie. Like I was kind of like, oh, the Killers, that's pretty random. Dude, there are so many hits that the Killers have.
They have some hits, man.
It just hit after hit after hit. And there was probably like 30,000 people at that concert. And it was just like on the lawn. And it was such a vibe. And then the following night, they had Queen with Adam Lambert.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, okay, like Queen, whatever.
But
dude, there was probably 50,000 people there.
Oh, Queen. Yeah, Queen's definitely even more recognizable.
Yeah.
The Killers is big with our generation because it was just such a party song,
dude. Yeah, and like again, man, they had so many big hits, and like they'd start playing, and I'd be like, "Holy crap!" Like that is the Killers.
You forgot it was the Killers. Yeah,
uh-huh.
They have some other ones. It's just Mr. Brightside gets overplayed so much that it's like hard to.
And live, both bands were great, so it was cool, man. Overall, it was a fabulous
When You Were
weekend.
Young was one of my favorites for them too. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, yeah, dude, it was cool. Overall, it was an absolute great experience. Something I'll never forget.
Yeah, F1 has been on the rise for a while. And it's just more a matter of time. Like, because I had the dude on the Phoenix radio station that I went on this morning, the producer's like, hey, like, are you prepared to talk D-backs if they want to talk D-backs? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But
sign me up.
But like, I don't know all the intimate details of the roster because I haven't been covering that closely. And that's the thing is like, I've so invested in the D-backs after the season, and like they're young and like most of their guys are going to be back next year. And it's like, I would love nothing more than to not cover, but to be a fan of the D-backs next year. But it's like, it's so unrealistic in my predicament to like actually follow it closely. And like, that's the thing is like, because you're kind of you're a casual football fan, you're a casual, like,
right.
You can like watch the Netflix show. What's it called?
Drive to Survive.
Drive to Survive. And you can like catch up on the season. And like, I've heard really, really good things about F1 and how interesting the sport is in general, and like I see people on Twitter talking about it all the time. I just don't have the time.
Dude, I totally get it. If you want to have a happy marriage, you do not have the time to devote your soul to MLB and F1 and NFL and NBA and golf. Like, I'm sorry, but there's only like so many passions you can have that's like allowable where you're like not a single man
causing real problems. Yeah,
like
exactly.
honestly, it's just like.
And even when the kid comes into the hypothetical kid comes into the picture, it's going to get even more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Closing statement on F1. I am so not a car guy. I like could not be further from like interest in like sports cars. And like I have literally zero desire. Like if I was a billionaire, I don't think I'd have a sports car. Like I can honestly say that. F1 is not just car racing though. And that's what's so cool about it. Like F1 is like literally like the peak of engineering. And it is so precise. Like these F1 garages aren't like some like greasy, nasty garage, like full of oil and crap. Like F1 garages are like sterile. Like you could like straight up do like a surgery in an F1 garage and like not have your patient get an infection. Like they're like, it's so like precise, and the athletes are so incredible at what they do. Like it is like literally in another category of car racing, which is why I like it. Like I'm not, like, no offense, I'm not at all into NASCAR. I don't think I've ever watched a NASCAR race. I'm not into any other type of motorsport, but F1 is like, has this prestige that like grabs my interest for some reason.
F1 is like unquestionably, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this, but they're bigger than NASCAR on the global
Way
stage.
bigger.
Like,
Way
substantially. Like, the Daytona 500 might get 200,000 people for a 2.5 mile track, and like you're saying more than double that, which is crazy.
And then the viewership around the world. Like, dude, our neighbor in his trailer was some German guy named Klaus.
Klaus the German.
Yeah. Klaus was like,
Did he
walks
have a
up. Oh yeah, dude, he should have, because they're never mind. So yeah, like Klaus walks up. He's like, I'm Klaus, and he like, it was just
Klaus,
so cool.
what's up,
like,
man? It's
dude,
great to meet you.
I saw so many cargo pants and like man prees this weekend. Like, and
man prees.
Oh, man prees.
Okay.
And not making fun of it, but it was just cool to see like so many different people there. Like there's all sorts of languages being spoken. Like all these drivers.
It's a global sport, yeah.
Yeah, it's a global sport. These drivers are from everywhere. And it was just really cool to witness. It's a true global sport.
Yeah, I was really we briefly had this sponsorship deal with the Gran Turismo movie, and they sent us up to Phoenix to see a screening of it, and like I never would have watched that movie if it wasn't for that deal, just because it's typically not something that I'm overly interested in.
Right.
But I had a ton of fun watching that movie, and there were a bunch of specific things that like really resonated with me. And one of the big ones was the physical exertion of racing.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And
for sure,
like, because the kid is like a Gran Turismo player, and he's one of the best Gran Turismo players in the world, and he ends up becoming an actual Gran Turismo racer. And like essentially when they show up to this like training camp thing, they find out really quickly it's like, oh, actually, like those skinny little arms of yours aren't going to be able to turn the steering wheel. Like, you gotta get in the damn weight room, like that kind of thing, and conditioning, like, and then that 24-hour race at Le Mans or whatever they call it, like that is like bonkers.
So
me.
cool, and they have all the different sports cars that are like going around it. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, the racing scene though in general, like the engineering part is the coolest part. Like these are like the F1 cars in particular, like they are, because like the Gran Turismo thing is more along the lines of like actual street vehicles that they're racing in.
Right.
Whereas like F1 is like literally like the quintessential racing machine. They're like, they almost look like spaceships in the way that they're constructed. And the newer ones are absolutely wild. Like it honestly is the peak of motor engineering.
It is. It's the peak of engineering. It's or one of the peaks. But it's so incredible to see.
Yeah.
And the competitive nature of these drivers, like you and I are competitive people. Like these drivers are so competitive. Like Max Verstappen was gonna win this race earlier this season, and he was like, I forget how many seconds he needed to be ahead for like a pit stop. So like, let's say a pit stop takes 18 seconds out of a lap. He was like 20 seconds ahead, and he was already going to win the race, but he wanted the single point that you get for having the fastest lap of the day. Oh. And this dude literally forced his team into allowing him to pit so he could get new tires on and do a fast lap and get the fastest lap.
That's so cool.
Isn't that insane?
That's insane.
Yeah. So yeah, these dudes are competitive.
I don't think I don't think it's a coincidence that people that are wired like that end up having success. I think there's a fine line. Like I think when you cross the line into obsessive competitiveness, even though it will lead to results on the floor, on the court, in your sport, whatever it is, but it'll lead to like drawbacks in your social life. I mean, that we talked about this with the Tom Brady thing. I was always pro Tom Brady, but like I was trying to explain to all the women in our friend group, I'm like, you guys don't understand. Like, it's not that he doesn't want to be there for Giselle, okay? It's that he literally owes it to the football world to give us one more season. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
He's the greatest of all time.
So
like it's
funny.
but that's the thing is like people are like there's a fine line. But like I'm not surprised that it's like Michael Jordan punched a teammate, or that Kobe Bryant was rough on his teammates, or like it's just kind of like an important kind of side effect of what comes with that type of competitive personality. Who ended up winning the race in Austin?
It was Max. Yeah, it was Max. But what was cool is Logan Sargent is the first United States driver in a really long time. So there's only one American-owned team, which is Haas. They typically don't do very good, but one day they might if they stay in the sport. And then Logan Sargent is the only United States driver on the grid, and he actually scored points for the first time in his career in F1. But what's really cool is he's actually the first American to score points since 1993. That's how long it's been since there's been a United States driver. So it is on the rise in the United States, even though we don't have a huge presence on the grid. Like even though Haas doesn't do very good and Logan Sargent's not doing all that well either. Like it's really cool to see us being there and competing. And dude, it's like it sounds like we're just getting blown out of the water, which technically we are, but like we're talking like milliseconds. Behind.
Is it how much of it is driver talent versus like the engineering aspect? Like is Red Bull just so far ahead of the rest of the field from an engineering aspect?
So
and Max also happens to be a good driver, and that kind of pairs to be the best.
In the past, I always thought it was like a 80 or like let's call it a 70-30% like ratio, where it's like 70% of it is the car and then 30% of it is the driver. Like if you really think about it, it's probably on a sliding scale depending on which team you're talking about. So for example, you could probably put Max Verstappen inside of the Haas car and there'd still be probably no chance he could win. So call that a 90-10 in regards to importance. But for something like a Red Bull team, in regards to like how important the driver versus the car is, it's probably about a 60-40. And the reason why I bring that up is because like if Max was in a slow car, there's just no way he could compete. But with that being said, his teammate Perez is consistently way behind him. So
that's a pretty strong indicator.
It's a pretty strong indicator.
But he gets access to the exact same engineering and everything.
It's literally the exact same car.
Really?
And then they make fine adjustments depending on the driver. But like it's not like there's like, oh yeah, like Max runs this different engine than Perez. It's like no, it's like literally the exact same startup, and they tweak the cars depending on like what the driver wants. But we're talking tweaks. And they all race pretty much the same packages in most cases. Like so it's for a team like Red Bull who's at the top, probably like closer to like a 70-30. Whereas like the car matters so much.
That's super interesting, and that makes sense. Like it'd be harder to get emotionally invested in the sport if it just felt like the drivers weren't playing that big of a role. At that point, at a certain point, I feel like horse racing.
No, you're totally right. Yeah. And like when you watch F1, like you have to be down to be able to see like, okay, yeah, like Max Verstappen is 10 seconds ahead of everybody else. Like that's fine. But like there is still interest in the battle between 13th and 14th place. Like if you took all the cars off the grid and we're just watching that, it would still be super interesting. And these guys are so competitive and it matters so much to them because they want to keep their spots. There's 20 drivers in the entire world. Like
that's crazy.
If they're constantly getting beat out by their teammates.
That's less than half the NASCAR. The NASCAR does what, 43, I think?
Oh yeah, I'm not even sure. Yeah. But if you're constantly getting beat out by your teammate, guess what? You're going to lose your job in 2 years.
It's really that simple.
Or faster. So like these dudes are like, hell yeah, I'll race my heart out even if it's for 14th place. If it's better than my teammate. These guys are hardly teammates, by the way.
They're kind of like rivals.
Oh, they like crash into each other and but anyways, it's a cool sport.
All right, guys, we are going to bump Darth Bane to a separate episode. Thank you for hanging out with us with our F1 D-backs, sports media landscape.
Yes. General podcast.
Skechers episode.
Dude, what were we doing?
We appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll see you guys in about a week for Darth Bane.
Thanks a lot.